Greetings, all you Miraculous fans out there. I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with another episode review of Miraculous Ladybug. It's the Season 3 episode titled Ladybug, which, oh man, that kind of threw me for a second when I saw that title, but you get a good explanation once you get further into the episode itself, as we actually cut back to before Marinette's birthday, well, the last birthday that she had, where Adrian had made her a charm as a bit of a match to the one that she made him. And while he tries to get an opinion from Plag, it's Plag, so of course it didn't work out to the way he wanted, so he ends up asking his father for his opinion. However, his father simply responds that, I never gave you permission to go to Marinette's birthday party. How dare she? And of course, Adrian lays it on like, no, this is important. Marinette's a special friend to me, blah, blah, blah. And while Gabriel eventually did relent, because we saw it, Adrian went to Marinette's birthday party, gave her the charm. We had that sweet, touching moment between the two of them, with Lila off in the shadows sulking because her lies kind of bit her in the butt after a certain point. And she ended up even getting chewed out by Gabriel because they had entered into this pact to keep unwanted elements away from Adrian, namely Marinette Dupang Chang. Now, Lila actually had an idea of her own that she was ready to put in place in order to do just that, as we see her take from the teacher's desk, the teacher, Miss, I swear to God I can never remember her name because she doesn't appear that much, Miss Boustier's desk, swiping some answers to the previous tests they were taking, and she stashed them in Marinette's bag. So when Miss Bustier started to give everyone back their test results and all that, she ended up calling Marinette to the front of the class, asking her to open up her backpack because she received an anonymous tip that the answers to the test were stashed in Marinette's bag, and lo and behold, there they are. Now, I love the fact that even Chloe's shocked by this, because it's just like, yeah, no, Marinette would never do anything like this. And the fact that so many people actually bought into it after time, even with all the machinations that Lila put into place, it's just like, dude, all of you know Marinette. All of you. Kids and adults alike, none of you should easily be buying in to that some wild accusation that Marinette's a thief, because as Alia puts it, Marinette normally gets good grades. There would literally be no sense in her cheating like this. It really just makes no sense. I mean, you could put it in that, oh, well, maybe this was the one time she didn't study and so blah, blah, blah. But Marinette's character really speaks for herself. And when Lila is just like, oh, Marinette, how could you? I believed in you. Naturally, Marinette is fast to point the finger at Lila being the culprit behind the stashed papers, but because nobody really believes Marinette about Lila's lying, no one aside from Adrian at this point, and even then it took the events of the episode Oni-chan to actually cause him to believe it. It literally took him seeing it with his own eyes for him to finally believe it. And, it kind of almost sort of goes on deaf ears when, Marinette tries to plead her case to Miss Bustier, but ultimately, everybody in the entire class starts to speak up for her. And of course they do. Like, they all know Marinette is a good person. And the fact that Miss Bustier isn't even really listening to it. I'm like, I believe Marinette helped you out in at least a few cases. Again, she doesn't appear that much, so it's hard to say, but I at least thought they had somewhat of a connection. But, she does end up sending both Marinette and Lila to the principal's office, where Lila, in a very smug fashion, is just like, I told you I get you, blah, 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 blah. And honestly, it's not that I hate Lila, because honestly, I kind of like the character, how deviously and manipulative she is. It's just that when it takes other characters being a little bit stupider in order for her machinations to actually come into play, that's what I don't much care for. I prefer it to, go because she was just that devious rather than just because she, the adults were idiots. But sometimes that's just the way it has to go to push an interesting story forward. As we even have Lila pretend that Marinette pushed her down the stairs. And it's just like, oh yeah, because she got like this little bandage around her knee. It's like, dude, if you were pushed down the stairs, you would have a lot more than a bruised knee. Like, you fell down a whole ass flight of stairs. There's no way you got off with just a nick on my knee. But, Principal Damocles ends up, kind of buying into it at first, and then Lila even lays it on even thicker, like marmalade, that, oh, Marinette also stole the pendant that my grandmother gave it to me, this foxtail pendant, the same one from, Volpina, I think it was, where she, Lila first appeared and said that, oh yeah, I'll be the superhero, Volpina, blah blah. Like, when she first got akumatized and all that good stuff, naturally her parents don't buy into it. It's just like, how could you accuse our daughter without any proof? But Lila says she has proof. So everyone heads over to Marinette's locker, where the pendant just so happens to fall out of a box hidden in her locker. Which is just like, come on, isn't that just all too convenient? Just to like hide things in such obvious places. And while Marinette does her best to try to defend herself and even ask for Adrien to, testify to her character, Damocles isn't having any of it, and he actually ends up expelling Marinette right there on the spot, which leaves everyone that Marinette, who had confidence and faith in Marinette, it opens them up to being akumatized by Hawkmoth. And it's not just everyone else, it is Marinette as well, as we also see Hawkmoth once again turn Natalie into what was that, freaking the boost power, whatever, what have you. Just cannot get the name, but Natalie is once again key in his plans. Catalyst. There we go, Catalyst. God, there's too much happening in this episode. Let me make that clear right now. Too much happens in this episode. It is a wild episode. So Natalie is also in play for this. He puts the Akuma in her pad. She turns into Catalyst once again. She, energizes his Miraculous, turning him once again into Scarlet Moth. He sends out this wave of Akuma. They all come flooding into the schoolhouse, and while some actually manage to fend this off, like Chloe and Sabrina managed to fend it off, as well as Alya, we actually see the greater majority of everyone akumatized, including both Marinette and her mother. And both Marinette and Sabine are actually dubbed with their own akumatized names, with Marinette being Princess Justice and Sabine being Verity Queen, which I don't even know what that means. But while Hawkmoth is all too ready to actually ask them to find Ladybug and Cat Noir and bring the Miraculous to me, we actually see Marinette get ready to take off her Miraculous. Unfortunately, Natalie starts to succumb to the effects of the Peacock Miraculous, which, again, is something I had said all that while back. If these episodes were actually aired in the proper order, we should have already been seeing this episodes back, because, that was something that Gabriel has stated. The Peacock, whatever, the Peacock Miraculous is damaged, and using it could damage the user, and we're seeing that in Natalie, and Gabriel completely just deactivates everyone in order to get her to safety, and we see the Akuma fly out of Marinette's bag, and everyone's reset to normal and all that, and Tiki's just like, yo, that was crazy. You would have taken your Miraculous right to Hawkmoth then and there. That would have been bad news. So Marinette realizes that her best course of action is to get some info on how to clear her name, so she turns to Alia, who makes it known that the odds are really stacked against her, especially in terms of the fact that, it's always been very noticeable that Marinette has something against Lila and no proof to go along with it. And without proof, it just ends up damning her even further. But Detective Alia is on the case. Unfortunately, Marinette ends up being stuck at her parents' bakery, as they're intent on, basically keeping her out of trouble, which is just like, she tries to tell him, hey, I want to go out and try to clear my name, but they don't listen, which really took me off guard, because I'm so used to her parents being very supportive in terms of stuff like this. But to see them just kind of buy into it for the most part and try to keep their troubled daughter out of even more trouble, like, guys, come on. You know Marinette better than this. You raised her. You instilled good values in her. You should have more faith in your daughter, I would at least like to think. But after the doctor leaves the Agrest estate, Gabriel makes it known that, I should have never let you use the Peacock Miraculous. With the damage that it sustained, it ends up slowly creeping onto you, the user, over time with each and every use. So he takes it away from her and stashes it, as he doesn't want her to end up like his wife. We actually get absolute confirmation that the reason that Emily Agrest? Emily, yeah. Actually ended up in the state that she is under the Agrest estate is because of use of the Peacock Miraculous, which really begs the question, why was she using the Peacock Miraculous? To what ends? What was the purpose of it all? And the fact that Adrian seems to be of a decent age in this picture, makes it very known that it had to not have been that long ago that this happened. So what was the goal that they had in using the Peacock Miraculous? And on top of that, why did she even have the Peacock Miraculous when Master Fu has so many of the other Miraculous? But Lila does some investigating and research and all that good stuff, and while Gabriel is asleep, Natalie is determined to actually fulfill the goal, because, Gabriel had pretty much won, and if not for her illness, they would have dominated from there on out. So she ends up taking back the Peacock Miraculous, buying a little trinket in order to create one of her Senti monsters, and while Duzu is kind of against it, Duzu is ultimately swayed by how deeply in love Natalie is with Gabriel, and she transforms into Mayura and places the Amok into the little trinket, and she actually shapes her own Senti monster. And because it's Mayura herself shaping the Senti monster, it is more powerful than most, and she's actually able to shape it into a perfect copy of Ladybug, hence the title. And while Marinette is still baking it up with her dad, she's unable to answer any calls from Alia on the progress of the investigation. Ultimately, that's probably for the best, as Alya was only calling to say that she doesn't really have much to go on. Everything just kind of points to, whoever she thinks the villain is just getting away with it. But Adrian knows better and gets ready to confront Lila about this whole situation, only for him to be distracted by the news report of Myra fighting Ladybug. So he transforms into Cat Noir and heads over as Myra lays her trap, pretending to injure the sentient monster Ladybug. And, he ends up kind of fawning over her. And as the news report goes all over, it reaches back to the Dupang Chang bakery. And while, Marinette ends up questioning how there's another Ladybug, she tries her best in order to just work through everything her parents want her to do so that she can make her way out in order to, make sure everything's okay. And as the fake Ladybug gets closer and closer to getting Cat Noir's Miraculous, using sweet words and charm and going in for a nice little kiss, in comes Ladybug to save the day. Unfortunately, Cat Noir is just so convinced that this fake Ladybug is the real Ladybug, he just does not buy into it. And it even gets to the point where he teams up with the fake Ladybug to take down the real Ladybug. However, Ladybug realizes that the best way to snap him out of it is to expose the truth. So he's just like, hey, don't cataclysm my earrings, where the source of the Senti monster is, or the what have you, the source of the Akuma, because the fake Ladybug is just like, oh, she's an Akumatized fan or something like that. And so while Cat Noir goes in for the strike, Mayura cries out, no, don't do it, not realizing that it's a trap, exposing it to Cat Noir, who's just so taken aback as the fake Ladybug allies with Mayura. He's just like, but she just seems so real, so lifelike. He really does buy into the fact that this Senti monster seemed to be a real living creature. And they realize that the Amok must be in the little trinket that Myra is carrying around, and the fake Ladybug brings out a Senti charm, as she calls it, which is this massive glue launcher, and Ladybug brings out her lucky charm, which ends up being a fork, which I think we saw in Despair Bear, I think it was. And that's how Cat Noir makes sure that it is the real Ladybug, because only the real Ladybug would have such a weird lucky charm. And so the battle ensues. Gabriel wakes up, realizing that Natalie took the Miraculous. And, Ladybug notices out the corner of her eye that Myra seems to be a little bit winded from the battle. And they realize this is their opportunity to go in and get her Miraculous and find out who she actually is. So Ladybug takes the fork and just scrapes it against some glass, which is just like, oh no, please, I'd rather you kill me. Mayuri loses her concentration. Ladybug manages to grab the trinket, and but before she actually gets ready to break it and dispel the Senti monster, she actually decides to hand it over, which I feel like kind of came out of nowhere almost, because she kind of buys into what Cat Noir was saying that the Senti monster seems to be a real living creature, and she decides to give it free will of its own, allow it to make its own choices and decisions, because you seem to be alive and you deserve the choice of what you do with your life. And so the Senti monster, Ladybug, and Cat Noir gang up on Myra, but we see that Myra still has power over the Senti monster, and she completely destroys it, which sends Cat Noir into a rage. But in comes none other than Hawkmoth, and a battle ensues between Cat Noir, Ladybug, and Hawkmoth, which is just like, yo, this is some end of the season kind of events going on here, like Hawkmoth showing up, two-on-two battle between Hawkmoth and Mayura versus Ladybug and Cat Noir. It's wild, but ultimately Ladybug manages to capture the weakened Mayura, but Hawkmoth manages to capture Cat Noir, and while he can't grab his ring because Cat Noir activated his cataclysm, he just decides to wait him out because he's not under the restrictions of having his miraculous time out because, well, he's a full-grown adult. Adults don't have that limitation, but they ultimately end up tossing their hostages over the side. They end up running past each other, and Ladybug manages to save Cat Noir, much to his shame in the fact that, this would have been their opportunity to find out who Mayuri is. But, Ladybug just laments that the Senti monster was destroyed. He really did feel that it was a living, breathing creature who should have had the choice of life, which, I kind of agree, but at the same time, it just feels like, really? You really got that much of a feeling of life from the Senti monster from just a little bit of an interaction? Like, I feel like Cat Noir's thinking a little too much with his little Noir, if you know what I mean. Like, dude, really? Usually I'm not that cold and heartless to aspects like this, but we had no time to get to know that Senti monster Ladybug. Like, if that Ladybug Senti monster had had an episode to itself where it was running around, it was actually being heroic, doing nice things, doing kind things, all that would have been fine, but we didn't get any of that. It was just the Senti monster, being used as a puppet by Mayura. It just, I don't know, it feels a little too forced, honestly, in my opinion. But, Natalie ultimately does end up handing back over the Peacock Miraculous to Gabriel, as it really is just too dangerous. She had a good plan, but the weakness that she had from the Miraculous was just a little too much for her. And so, Adrien goes about his workday, and we end up finding out that Lila is on the shoot as well, managing to weasel her way into the situation. And while he's shocked at first, Adrien confronts Lila and says, "I know you lied, and if you ever want to actually be near me again, you will fix this with another lie." And while Lila is reluctant at first, Natalie gives the go-ahead in this situation. And so Lila makes up another tall tale about her having this spontaneous compulsion for saying random things. So Marinetta is accepted back into the school, and while she does question why Lila had the change of heart, Lila makes it known that not everything isn't as it seems in most cases. And while Marinette is celebrating her being let back into school, she ends up seeing that Lila and Adrien have gotten a very close photo shoot of their own going, much to Marinette's dismay, and her parents believing that, oh, isn't that nice? Despite her illness, she's still able to do what she loves. Thus ending Ladybug, a very all over the place episode. Like, my god, there were so many twists and turns and changes and shifts. Like, what even the hell? There were so many elements in this one episode alone that could have just been a standalone episode in and of themselves, and it took me so off guard because this ain't even the season finale. At least I haven't seen the production code that made it seem that way. I think this is only like episode 24, I think it is. So it's very close to the end of the season in terms of production. But like, dude, what? What a wild thing to have happen. But again, at least this, unlike other episodes, didn't kind of spoil anything further down the line. Honestly, it kind of pays off something we hadn't gotten to see too much of, and that's being actually able to see a lot more of that, deal made between Lila and Gabriel, because we haven't seen too much of that throughout the season. Honestly, Lila has appeared in like 3 episodes, including this one at most during the course of the season, 3 or 4. Like, dude, in an entire 26 episode season, that's weirdly low for an overarching plot line. But it was at least pretty good, and to have seen Ladybug finally get akumatized, and the fact that she was given her name and she was about to hand over the miraculous to what you call it. He was about to hand over the miraculous to Hawkmoth right then and there. Like, dude, just really wild stuff. And Lila really brought her A game to the party, but at the same time, it came at the results as the result. It had to be done because the adults were made to be very, very closed-minded to a lot of situations. And I know that tends to be how these kinds of series work. The adults have to be a little bit more on the not quite bright side in order to actually have them sneak around under the parents' watch, because otherwise, the parents would have noticed a long time ago that their kid is a superhero and is sneaking out at night. Heck, most people would have realized that Marinette is Ladybug at this point. It really does not feel like a solid showing. Like, it doesn't feel like a solid point up until now that it's been hid that Ladybug is Marinette. It feels like with at least a little bit of actual proper investigation, anyone would know at this point. But that's neither here nor there. It's nice to have finally gotten real confirmation that Emily was ended up in this kind of comatose state because she used the Peacock Miraculous, but again, we don't know how it got damaged. We don't know why she had it in the first place or what she was planning to do with it. Why did Emily and Gabriel even have the miraculous that they have? How did they end up coming into possession of it? There's just so many deep underlying questions here that I really can't wait to have answered. But tell me your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. How did you feel about this episode? How did you feel about Lila? How did you feel about Mayura? How did you feel about the Peacock Miraculous itself? How did you feel about the dumbing down of the adult characters in order for Lila's plan to actually work? Just so many things all over the place. Not to mention that little plot line of the Senti monster. Like, am I alone in feeling like that whole moment just really was undeserved? It really didn't feel to me like the Senti monster deserved to have the feelings put towards it that it did, because it didn't show that it actually had free will, or at least the capacity for it. It feels like a really weird situation that just came out of nowhere for no real reason. But again, tell me your thoughts, feelings, and theories in the comment section below. If you liked this video, leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to give me a dislike and tell me what I did wrong in the comment section below so I might better myself for future videos. Subscribe and hit the bell icon, that way you never miss out on another Miraculous Ladybug episode review. As out of order these episodes are, like, man, it just gets worse and worse with each passing episode, each passing season. Everything just so out of order, but I enjoy it nonetheless. And if you want to find me on social media, just Google Duuz-Diz-Din. But be careful, some things are not for the eyes of children. And until next time, just remember, All forms of life deserve the right to choose how they live their life. Even if the amount of life doesn't seem to be too long. If they have the ability to make the choice, they should be allowed to make it. That's just how it is. Until next time, I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and it is high time I went to bed. Till next time, bye.